Thank you, everybody, for joining us for yet another episode of the Success Navigator Leadership Interview Series, an interview series where we dive deep into some of the findings of APAC and Middle East's largest HR industry study, the Global State of HR Industry Study 2024. Today, we have with us Paul Jacob, Happiness Evangelist and Senior Director, Talent and HR Analytics from Happiest Minds Technologies, joining us. It's great to have you with us today, Paul.
Great to be here.
Right. So for our audience today, the series of conversations that we've been having, we are looking at some of the challenges and gaps that have emerged out of the entire region from an from a HR and talent standpoint. And our conversation with Paul today is really going to focus on the core issue of implementing and executing a HR analytics journey, which we've seen has emerged as a pain point not just across India but other regions like Southeast Asia, Australia, and even the Middle East. So, with this, Paul, let me just dive straight into my first question.
Sure.
Uh, and so, one of the findings, as I said, we found was when it comes to execution, HR leaders across this region are really dissatisfied with their ability to enhance productivity through AI and analytics, execute digital transformation. I mean, these still remain a major areas of dissatisfaction for leaders today. From
Mhm.
an implementation and execution standpoint, how do you think an analytics journey can be better implemented today? And what are some lessons or what are some strategies that you would like to provide leaders for 2025?
Yeah. See, there are multiple root causes why there is so much of dissatisfaction, to be honest with you. See, I would want to highlight on four of them because I dwell in that space. Uh,
Yeah.
See, today what happens with an analytics platform is that there is a lack of integrated systems which are available for us to track and measure the success of any of our initiatives which are there. The distributed databases are available across all the places, and it becomes a big challenge for the leader to basically have a integrated system to have a holistic view about what is happening. That's issue number one. The second part, which I feel is AI and analytics adoption has seen a lot of resistance, to be honest with you, because of the insufficient tech leadership, to be honest, in an organization.
Right.
There is a lot of questions which get raised around what AI can bring in. There's a lot of ethical dilemmas which are there. Analytics is still seen as reporting and not analytics. That itself is a big misnomer in the industry. The third point, what I would want to talk about is the misalignment, to be honest with you, between the organization culture and the digital transformation story which is there within the organization.
Right.
Uh, we are not in a position to translate the organization culture story and weave it back to the digital transformation goals of the organization per se. And hence, there has been an issue there. And the fourth and the most prominent reasons is the resistance to change and the over reliance that we have onto legacy systems. Um and the resistance is the fact that I created this system, we have been there in the system, why do we want to change? So that has been, I think, a few of the most for me at least, a few of the most daunting tasks today. There are multiple skills or multiple ways that we can actually overcome those particular challenges, to be honest. We are talking about upskilling our HR teams which are there, providing them with hands-on training on AI, hands-on training on data analytics, uh, also talking to them about the various different tools which are available in the market and the methodologies which are available in the market, which would help the HR teams per se. Then we talk about the cross-functional collaboration with HR and the business leaders, which I feel is not that high, because the requirements that we get are very, very oriented to the HR related matrices than the business related matrices, because we are not in a position to weave the entire business story together with the HR story together. So that is a point of concern. The other part that we can definitely do our pilot projects along with the business leaders, which we do at Happiest Minds today. A lot of our work predominantly works with the AI and the analytic teams to basically create chatbots, to create analytical tools, to create anything which is there where we can automate. We find those, we create the BRD documents, we have conversations with the technical teams to basically ensure that we are one up at least in the game which is there.
Right, right, right.
One, one last thing which is there, which is a solution, which is about taking employee feedback. I think we do not we underrate the user experience part of it,
Right.
because we are designing something for ourselves. We look at it only from our perspective. I think feedback is imperative, and it is important that we design systems based on the employee feedback that we get. I think these 4 points would be in a position to help us in terms of doing certain actions.
Great. What I really like about that answer is it helps uncover some of the reasons that we've also noticed behind this satisfaction that we've that the report highlights. But you also touched upon a lot of points that are going to be my coming questions. So it's a great response that I think our audience can really unpack and take bits from it. Just staying on that resistance aspect for a bit, what we've seen in the report and even in our conversations that we're having with leaders across APAC, resistance is being echoed a lot of times, and what we've seen that change management as an aspect really needs to be paid attention to. And this is not just when you're looking at future technologies like AI, but even for analytics, right? So when you talk about overcoming resistance and creating and linking with that business narrative, how do you think should HR leaders do that? Because looking at 2025, business is going to ask HR for better results, and the time to deliver is also going to shorten. So how do you see that journey evolving, and how do you see change management becoming more crucial there?
That's a very interesting question, to be honest with you, because I think the both the analytics part of it as well as the AI part of it is the adoption towards that is not very great at this particular period of time. I think there is a problem in both both the places, to be honest with you, both with the HR leaders as well as the vendors. I'll maybe highlight this when we talk about this. See, HR leaders often prioritize because there are cost constraints in any organizations, right? So
Yeah,
they tend to prioritize cost. They tend to prioritize the ease of implementation over the capabilities which a particular tool can bring in. Now,
no,
business leadership requires something else, and we are basically looking at something else. Hence, predominantly, what happens is that there is a mismatch between expectations. And the worst part, which is there, is that they are aware that these tools exist in the market. So uh, that disconnect is a very, very huge thing. Second part of it is, I think both the technologies, both analytics as well as especially the people analytics part of it, and the AI part of it is at a very, very nascent stage. A lot
yeah,
of vendors today talk about the fact that they can implement quite a large number of things, but they are not in a position to give customized, contextualized solutions to a particular industry or a particular organization. So I would
yeah,
say that the issues are at both the ends. I would rather say uh, we don't understand the business nuances of it. Hence, we basically go ahead and create something which is desirable to us. We prioritize cost. We prioritize ease of implementation. And when we look at a vendor, we are enamored by the uh, the capabilities that the vendor basically brings about, but the implementation may be different. Uh,
great.
some recommendations which are there, and I think HR people and HR partners need to work about it, is to focus on customizations and the scalability of these HR tools. Second part which is there is about ensuring that there is a real world use case for these analytics capabilities that these uh, tools bring in, and
Yeah,
offer training programs to HR leaders. And I would even go to an extent of saying that business leaders also need to uh, uh, understand what exactly we are doing. I think the concurrence from business leaders is not sought in the first phase. Products are launched without or functions are lost in widgets, apps. Everything is launched without taking into consideration what the business needs. and the user centricity,
Yeah.
which I would harp upon again. The design, the UX, the experience, what does it do? All of that is very important. So I think
Great.
these are the few recommendations that I would have for tech partners. Uh, I'm not sure whether I answered your question, but yeah, that's
No,
my.
no. I think it does, and we will come to the user experience bit in my next question. But I think one the reasons why we wanted to do a study which is slightly holistic is really look at not just HR leaders but also what the HR tech partners are saying from an outside in perspective. And in India, it's interesting to find where while HR leaders said there is a lack of customization, lack of integration focus from HR vendors, and a lot of points that you've raised. HR tech partners, on the other hand, feel there's a slight lack of change management and resistance journey that HR leaders really need to pay attention to. And I feel a lot of these things being echoed in this conversation also. So thank you for that. Now let's come to the user experience bit, right? I think you mentioned it a couple of times, but when we are looking at an analytics journey and we want to really drive value out of what analytics is giving us and really use it to sort of improve upon HR initiatives. Uh, how do you see user experience? What role do you see a user experience playing there? And if you look at 2025 with multi-generational workforce entering, becoming a norm, not just in India, across APAC, what should companies be doing better than what they've already been doing to sort of look at user experience more closely?
Hmm. A very interesting question because we have been dwelling about this for some time. The biggest misnomer which is there about analytics and specifically analytics is the fact that analytics is reporting in human resources. These are two separate fields, and I think leaders need to understand that analytics is different from reporting. A reporting can be created on a Power BI dashboard.
Yeah.
Okay. uh, that's what reporting does. But if you're talking about analytics is about predicting certain things which will happen in the future based on certain actions that you have done in the past,
Yeah.
for which I need to understand the technical statistical models which are available, which I have to prune to the organization's need. So, off the shelf, if I have a product, very good, which will meet my needs. But predominantly in any organization, the way headcount and manpower is looked like is at a different level. So, in all, what I would want to say is that there is a the tools which are designed for
Mm.
HR efficiency or human resources efficiency and not employee usability. Okay,
Mm.
the there is a limitation which is there because of the intuitiveness of the interfaces which are there,
Yeah.
because the anything which is attractive, and you have to understand what kind of generation that we are dealing with. uh, they don't have time to do 20 clicks to reach a particular what do you call it, a particular level or a particular report.
Yeah.
Maximum 2 clicks is what they would basically do. And the intuitiveness of the interface and how much the interface can engage is what predominantly uh, makes or breaks the adoption of a particular platform. On the strategies of ensuring that we are raising effectiveness, I think the HR teams, tech solution teams need to basically look at employee experience at the core of leveraging any kind of UX designs. Okay, this can be any kind of customized software that you're purchasing from the market or anything that you're building internally. Second part of it is that we need to look at the AI driven insights to customize learning, career paths, engagement strategies, etc. This, if it can be gamified, even better.
Yeah.
Um, the other part is, do I have a self-service option? Majority of the tools that we do today or do which we have in the market have a self-service option. But
Yeah.
do they have an option to manage tasks? Can I configure tasks in those particular tools which can keep me reminded of doing certain actions. For example, do I have a task which it gives me a reminder in case I have not marked attendance for a day?
Right. Right.
So those kind of intuitiveness is something that I think it is important that we build in into the tools that we basically deploy. And even before we deploy, we check the capabilities of these particular tools to do these actions.
Right. Um, I'm slightly curious to know from your standpoint because I know Happiest Minds is doing a lot in looking at user experience from that lens. How are you dealing with the entire aspect of ethical use of data and data privacy, data security? Because that's again that's a key concern, especially from a security standpoint, yes, but also about privacy and the ethical use of data. How are you looking at those aspects?
See, it's a very interesting. Okay, AI based actions which are there. There is obviously a gray line there where there's a very thin line between what is ethical and what is not. Okay, so I think with all our vendors and when we have discussions, we ensure that one of the factors that we check for any of our vendors is whether they are GDPR compliant, whether they
Okay.
have
Mhm.
their GDPR actions are there in place, whether there's a purging option which they are giving, whether they are not scraping any information from any of the sites. For example, they're not scraping information from a LinkedIn or for that matter a Naukri. So we are conscious about the fact that they are not doing any kind of scraping. For our
Sure.
internal members, we are ensuring that all kind of data security guards are pulled up, and anything which is sensitive in nature is not released to the tool or to the vendor. We have our internal team to basically do these configurations for us. So
Right.
we do our testing, we do our actions on dummy data, and then once we have the dummy data done, we would basically put in the actual data, and the database or the data warehouse would be owned by us.
Right.
So we
Right.
are
Right.
ensuring that all of these actions are taking place in house, so that the data security is not breached for us.
Right. And if you look at the external, talent landscape, do you think this is another hat that HR leaders really need to put on and really start thinking from?
I think the HR leaders definitely need to start looking from the perspective that what is it that they can do beyond their defined rules. Because the point here
Yeah.
is, I think HR as a function has evolved over the last couple of years. Okay, so I think today I wear a hat of a person who basically does my business HR. When I do my business HR, I need to know what my business is talking about. When I'm doing a deployment, for example, the role which I do for analytics, I do deployments, I do actions which are pertaining to evaluation of tools. There is business requirement documents as an HR person that I need to write,
Yeah.
and I
Right.
have to do RFP RFQs, which would not have been the scene a couple of years back. So, for
Right.
example, if I'm creating a software internally, or if I'm creating an app internally, or I'm creating a widget internally, there is a BRD document, a business requirement document that I need to pen down, so that my IT team exactly knows what exactly they are building,
Right.
including the
Right.
level of security which is needed. And when I'm doing vendor evaluation, I need to wear the hat of a not of a CISO, but at least a security officer to understand whether my data will get leaked. And let me tell you this, we have in the past 6 months rejected a couple of vendors where they basically were doing scrapping,
Yeah.
data scrapping for from other sites without the consent of the user, which is
Right. Right.
ethically. So we have gone ahead and we have rejected a few of those vendors also. Data scrapping is a huge issue in the industry today.
Understood. I think that really helps me ask my next question because, as you sort of point out, HR really has to wear a lot of those hats. And coming back to the theme of this conversation, the strengthening the analytics journey, I think what we also saw that around 57% of HR leaders, again across APAC and Middle East, have said that they're going to prioritize improving functional effectiveness and tech skills in the coming 12 to 18 months to, really address the analytics gap that we identified earlier on, and a lot of other change execution gaps that we have highlighted in the report. What skills and what aspects do you think, because again, when we talk about skilling, there's no end to it to an extent. If you had to look at 2025, what skills do you think are really at top of your agenda, or should be on the top of the agenda of HR leaders today?
Um, Something very interesting which is happening on the analytics field, and to be honest with you, on any field for that matter, which is HR tech skills, which we were talking about. See, there are multiple facets of an HR tech skills. Okay, so we have
Yeah.
analytics and visualization tools which are available. So a lot of my team members today work on Power BI. May not be DAX, but Power BI for sure in terms of at least the visualization part of it. I have a specific team member of mine who works on Python to derive data insights.
Oh,
I engage with the AI and analytics team for Tableau and Tableau related actions which are there. That's something which is on the analytics part of it. The change management methodologies that we are talking about would be training people on models like Coter's model, or basically doing an agile change practice management kind of a workshop which is there. That is something which is very, very important. Then we are talking about cloud-based technologies or cloud-based HR systems like Workday, SuccessFactors, Oracle, Darwinbox, any of those particular actions which are there, which would be the priority of any HR leader. The AI and ML applications predominantly, my this is my point of view, and I can be wrong here, should be used for predictive analytics and talent analytics, because that is where the entire story of a particular employee will come together. So,
you're right.
ensuring that there is a learning path, ensuring that there is a mentorship program, or ensuring that there is individuals who are attending conferences, forums, where we talk beyond HR
Right.
is something which is going to be very, very crucial at this particular period of time.
Right. Is there also, because again, we've heard this from some of our conversations come up, should there also be a robust focus on, what's called as soft skills and, that entire aspect? What would you comment on that?
See, communication skills are one of the most important part of any kind of change management or any kind of uh, adoption. To be honest with you, okay. So we have to ensure, and when I say we as HR people, we need to ensure that we make a very, very, very clear and transparent communication plan. Explain the purpose of why we are doing a particular action, what are the benefits of this particular change. That has to be done top down, bottom up, vertical, horizontal, without which adoption will not happen. Second part
Right.
is you have to co-create with the employee. If you are not co-creating with the employee, the adoption will be low. A lot of our actions today are done without leadership buy-in, or the
Agreed.
leadership not being an advocate of what we are trying to create. And we have this tendency of recreating the wheel all over again. We do not basically believe that there can be an agile methodology or agile framework which can be adopted into human resources. There are iterative processes which are there, which are available, which for which a particular module or a particular process flow has been defined. You do not have to reinvent that wheel to basically uh, make a particular action or particularly base and particular function more agile.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the future ready approaches that we can look at is, one is planning the scenarios in the future, or planning multiple contingencies which will happen to ensure that if there is a volatility in the business, how would you basically go about making it less volatile? Second is, am I in a position to give back to the business and to the organization data driven decision making systems? Okay, by using analytics, by ensuring adoption is there, by having a central database for any of these particular actions, by linking HR metrics to the business metrics, and linking the profitability of the organization to all of this taken together. And
Right.
the last and the most important part is there a fatigue? Is there an application fatigue today? Because uh, a lot of us today in different business units within HR, or in different COEs within HR, are designing what do you call it, applications. Is it a centralized application which is there, or are there different application, one for compensation, which is HR operations, one is for well-being, the other one is for happiness, the other one is for, so do I have an integrated framework? Because at the end of the day, employee does not want to go to multiple applications to do the same thing. So
Right.
am I in
Right.
a position to recreate and avoid the fatigue coming into the employee? Because if the employee fatigues, none of this is going to get adopted. So I
Right.
think that's my thought process on it.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Paul. I'm done with my questions, and I think there's a lot that we've covered in these questions that I think our audience can really pick from and take home. Any closing points that you might have, because we've been talking about, strengthening the analytics journey, but any closing point that you might want to add before we end the discussion?
Honestly, one bit of comment or commentary which I wanted to understand is it's time for us as leaders. See, we are dealing with a workforce which is very young and agile, and even HR people who are coming into our businesses are also coming from that particular age group. I
Yeah.
think it is important for us to adopt ourselves to these changes which are happening. Secondly, we need to be open to change, which is there. And the last part, which is the most important part, is we have to figure out a way to manage change within the organization. I think as individuals or as people, we are very bad at managing change. So if we are in a position to manage change, I think our work is done predominantly, I would say.
Great. I echo with a lot of those points, and those points are something that, again, the report really identifies. I think the next step for us to is to collectively look at how HR leaders can really take that step. So, thank you for joining us, Paul. Thank you for your time and
Thank
helping
you.
us with
Thank you for
this
being here.
conversation.
Have a good day. See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.